Hello everyone, I am Elohim Lafar, again here. Welcome to this space. I have this amazing opportunity to share this space this time with Heather Greene from Llewellyn Books. She's an editor, writer, and she's graduated from the University of Cornell, and she's very close to publish now a very interesting book that is not the typical book on spellcasting that we are always promoting. It's something very different, very deep in history, popular culture, something that I think that everyone will enjoy. I think that is a very nice idea. It's a reissue or new edition of her first book. She works for Llewellyn Worldwide, that everybody knows is one of the most bigger publishers that we have. It has been around for like forever. And she accepted to do this talk with me. So welcome, Heather. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing great. Can't wait for the book to come out.
Yes, come out very close to All Hallows Eve. Come out in October, correct?
October 8th, actually. Luckily, it'll be at the beginning of October, so there's lots of opportunity to read the book and watch witch movies up until Halloween, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, all the good stuff.
Exactly. That's very good promotion, because you can find the book, you can have it in your home, and when you see all of these marathons on Netflix and TV shows about which films, you have the book like a reference for you. I need to ask here, which is your favorite film, if you have one, on witchcraft?
Well, my favorite witch film, I always say, is The Wizard of Oz. It kind of got me started. I loved it since I was a child, fascinated with it. And I talk about that in the introduction of the book a little bit, and why that is. That's not really a movie on witchcraft per se. It's a movie with a witch in it, but that would be my favorite witch movie.
Got it. Your book is Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. Mm-hmm. Has a lot of endorsements, and for everybody watching the video or listening the audio, if you go to below, you have the link to the website of Heather. She's on Twitter, she's on Facebook. We are trying to put her on Instagram against her will, and the links to her blog, because she also writes for Wild Hunt and other blogs. I will put a lot of links of her here below in the description of the video. Also, she has studies of film and theater at Cornell University and the University of Paris. Tell me, how do you think that this, because you studied this career and you focus in this career doing a book about it, but how you choose focus all of this in the area of witchcraft? How was this idea for you?
The book itself, how did that come about being with in terms of my career and my study in film? That's always
you elaborate. Sorry, but you elaborate the question better than me. Thank you.
Well, that's actually something everyone asks. Like, how was I studying film and theater and then studying witchcraft on the other side? So I'm a Gemini, so I'm going to say that first. I always joke about that. So there's always multiple things going on, right, for Geminis. But I was studying film and theater in college and grad school. And I was studying witchcraft on this, in my spare time. That was my activity elsewhere. So and the occult, tarot, astrology, I just kind of got into all of this stuff. So they were separate for a long time. And then in the late 90s, I noticed that there was this proliferation of witchcraft related films, and they were expressing not just the Wizard of Oz characters. They were expressing Wicca, they were expressing ritual, they were expressing religion. And I saw this kind of being something that was becoming popular and trendy. And I said, there's something here. And what does that look like? Being a film scholar at the time, I was in grad school studying not only film, but also the cultural influence and socio-political ramifications of representation in other types of films. So I said, there's something here. And I was going to do the study back then, but life got in the way, as I like to say, and things got off, and I did some other things. And then eventually I noticed by 2010, 2013, the same thing was happening again. And I said, I'm going to do this study now, because I was going to do it, 15 years ago. I'm doing it now. And I'm glad I waited almost, because there's been a resurgence again, and it's been really interesting. And it only helped to support my theories that I had back in the 90s. So, the two things converged. And I think the other piece of that was that by the 2010, 11, 12, I was doing media work and writing for the pagan community, doing some PR. I worked with Circle Sanctuary. I worked with Covenant of the Goddess, and then, of course, the Wild Hunt. So I was already doing a lot of writing and work, my areas, my life was converging, so to speak, which is the way it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, you are doing a lot of work, and it's very nice because you are in different platforms, you are in different blogs, you are doing edition, also you are doing books, you are doing so much stuff at the same time. And this is very nice because people look at your work, and they feel inspired, because sometimes people feel like, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. But when people go to see you, it's like, okay, she can do all of this. Maybe I could try. And this is very good how I see how you blend your career in film and theater with this about witchcraft. Is a very interesting topic. I like this kind of books because most of the time these books are just spellcasting more spells and spells and spells, and sometimes we lost the track of which is exactly the source of this information, or which is the reference, or from where comes this influence. When I come from Venezuela, that is South America, is a total different culture, and we don't have access to so many films and TV series and stuff. We don't have Netflix. So when you come here and you see that people is so much involved in pop culture and has so many references, and they talk to each other about this TV show or this film, you feel like, wow, I mean, people really take this very seriously, and this has a lot of influence on them, because some things that some people maybe dismiss, like, oh, this is just a film. For someone else, it's maybe like an omen of their past. It's like, oh, I see that film about witchcraft and I feel related with that. So that was how I started on witchcraft. I listen and read many stories similar to that. And this kind of books is the kind of things that I really enjoy to read, and I really like to recommend, because give you a lot of information about history, about social culture, about how this influenced the whole society and the whole community from inside. And it's very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. Heather, I have a question here that is, which is your city, and which is your favorite thing about your city? Something that you really like about your city.
Okay, so I'm going to do a two-part answer to that, okay? I hope you don't mind.
This is your space. You can talk here about everything that you want.
So my current city is Atlanta, okay? So I'm in Metro Atlanta, and my favorite thing about my city is it's got a wonderful, unique cultural beat. It's a very different, it has some things that cling to the past, which are not very savory, but then it's got a richness and a progressive Southern flavor as well. And I've come to love it and appreciate it over the years. And it also has a lot of trees for a city, which is really, I love that about Atlanta. It has a lot of trees. It's, I think, known as the tree city of the US or something like that. So, it is a great city. It took me a long time, however, to adjust, because in my heart, my city is New York City. That's where I grew up, and I love it there. And there's a beat in which you would know because you're there. There's a heartbeat in New York City that is uncomparable to anything else in the world. Anything you want is in that city. And so I have a deep love and affection for my hometown, so to speak. And I grew up looking at the skyline of Manhattan every day, and because that's how close I lived, and that never has left. Once you can take the girl out of New York City, but you can't take the New York City out of the girl.
I'm pretty sure that New York City miss you. I know. I'm pretty sure of that. It's an incredible place. I didn't meet any part of United States before to come here. I had the opportunity to come and start again from zero in New York, and I'm really grateful for that because I have actually in this month of September I'm having 6 years in New York City, and I'm really in love of the city. If I could marry with the city, believe me, I will do it. I'm really in love of the city, of each space, the museums, the parks, how do you see all of this blending of cultures in the subway? You see so many different people and everyone doing their own stuff, but everybody is together in the subway, everybody's together taking the lift of the Uber, or everybody's together in the restaurant, and you see so many people and tourists, and everybody feels in some way comfortable in the place. Everybody feels welcome in the place, and that's very nice.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I have this very nice story about Atlanta that I like how do you pronounce it, but I'm not in that level of English. I pronounce Atlanta for now. When I come from Venezuela, the airport, the spaceship, the airplane, that's the word, the airplane, not the spaceship. The airplane led me in Atlanta, and I come from Venezuela to Atlanta, and in Atlanta I need to do the transfer to New York. When I arrived in New York City in 2015, I don't talk English, any of English. My English was hi and bye. I remember that people look at me like very crazy because every time that I say thank you to people in that moment, I say thank you to you, because I don't understand that thank you was you in there. It was because I didn't study English, so every time I was thank you to you, and people look at me like, what? And when I come, I didn't know, I never see this before, and I was in Venezuela, I was in Colombia, I was in Argentina, and I never see that you can have a subway inside of the airport. And I was in Atlanta, and I was totally lost, without a map, without Wi-Fi, without Wi-Fi, without the language, without anything. And I need to take the transfer in half hour. And do you need to take the subway? And I was like, which subway? I need to go out of the city? No, the subway of the airplane, on the airport. And I was totally confused. And the people in Atlanta, has this very nice reference, some people in there, and they totally see me that I was lost. And people come to me and they don't talk my language, and they were where you are trying to go. New York City, okay, show me your ticket. I show the ticket, and they literally take me by hand to the subway, to the station. They put me in there, and they led me in the next station where I need to take the travel to New York. And I shared this story many times before, because for me it was like, wow, these people is really, because when you come from outside, you listen so many stories about Americans, but nobody tells you about how kind can be the people, especially people in Georgia, people in Atlanta is super kind. It's very connected with everybody, and they're like, okay, this crazy guy, he don't know where he's going, he don't know the language, so let me help him in some way. So he can be lost, but at least he will be lost in his city. And I arrived in time in New York thanks to that people. Mm-hmm. It's a very nice thing that I really like to remember over and over. I have this question here. Do you remember which was your first book on witchcraft?
Absolutely. That's an easy one. That was Buckland's Big Blue Book, which is what it's finally called, but it's Llewellyn's, one of Llewellyn's classics. It's Raymond Buckland's Big Book of Magic. I don't even know the complete book of magic, excuse me, or exactly. Complete book of witchcraft. It's the classic one. I picked that up at a Barnes and Noble on Fifth Avenue in New York, and got on the A train to head home to my parents' apartment, and just jumped on their couch and opened up the book and was reading away. That was fascinating. And then I think shortly after that, I got Marion Weinstein's book on Samhain, and then I think a few Laurie Cabot books. So those were some of my very first. I think I had a Sybil Leek book too. I think there's one up there that's pretty old and read and reread several times. Those were some of my very first witchcraft books.
Wow, but those are like classics. No, it's not like any other book. You start with the classics in there.
Yeah, well, at the time too, there wasn't as much out there as you can find now, and not as much variation and variety. And we get so much. I mean, working for Llewellyn, I see the amount of variety of types of magic and witchcraft that we have out and available to us at this point in book form. Back then, there wasn't internet, or barely internet, just a little bit of internet, and there wasn't as much variety, and there weren't as many books, so you were kind of limited. But these are classics, definitely.
Yes, that's true. I mean, when you look these kind of books in Latin America, all the books that you will find from some publisher is from Llewellyn. It has all of this collection of books in Spanish. Actually, I has a lot of piles of books out there. In there, I has my books in Spanish that I bring from Venezuela, and some books are from Llewellyn, Spanish translations that I bring with me, because it's like, you know, everybody recognize the symbol of the moon in the books. Like I said before, Llewellyn has been around for like forever, practically. Heather, do you remember? This is another very silly question. I love silly questions. I can do deep questions. I can. My brain don't go there. Do you remember which was your first spell or ritual that you did?
I don't specifically, just a spell I do not remember. I know I did a Samhain ritual.
So convenient. She don't remember. So convenient.
I don't, honestly. Those, you know, the smaller spells aren't as memorable. I don't know, but I did Samhain ritual, I know, back then, and I used the Marion Weinstein book to do it. So Samhain, I would say a Samhain ritual, and there might have been a spell in there. I just don't remember. It's been too long. I know I did some witch bottle spells in college. What they were for, I do not remember. So yeah, that hasn't stuck with me, that memory.
Okay. Do you remember, very similar question, but in your case, because this is your area of expertise, do you remember which was your first film related with witches that you see?
Well, it probably was The Wizard of Oz, I'm guessing, because I watched that. I used to watch that every year when it would come on Halloween. I actually even have a VHS tape with it recorded off of television, with all the commercials, and that's so much fun to watch because the commercials are really old. But I'm guessing it probably was The Wizard of Oz, and the only one I could say maybe Bedknobs and Broomsticks, maybe one. So that would be when I was little, you know, watching all of those Sabrina cartoons and dating myself here, and all of that would be probably the first. But at that time, I didn't know anything about modern practice of witchcraft, so I didn't make the relation. I just know them from the movies and love them.
Yes, you just mentioned it, Sabrina. I just discovered Sabrina like 1 year ago. Was pretty new for me. It's not exactly my thing, but I see and I like how much influence has in the people, because make that the people make questions to themselves. Oh, this is like that. This really works. This is the name of this character. So people start to do a lot of search and researching about it, and that's very interesting for me, because I am a Capricorn. I can be very stubborn. I am most of the time a very old person, and I like my old world. So when people talk to me about sometimes influence on films before to come into the United States, I was like, no, it's not related. But now that I am here, this literally opened my mind in many ways, and I see, oh, this really has influence on people. Good influence, bad influence. People feel related with the characters. People feel related with this spell casting or with this tradition that they see in some kind of film or documentary, and they try to look more research about it. So people trying to be more involved, and people starting to be in some way smarter because they look for more information. Oh, this film is the retreat or some kind of witch from, I don't know, from Canada. So I go to look information about how it's witchcraft in Canada. And it's very interesting how this in some way mold or take the people in different ways. That's
Mhm.
super interesting for me, something that I'm discovering now, and this is really interesting for me.
Mhm.
Uh, I know that you was in the university, and do you make this with witchcraft later? But for you personally, which come first, the film and the theater, or the witchcraft? Which do you think that come first in your life?
Which one was I interested in first is your question?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't, I would say film and theater only because I didn't have a name for my spiritual interests in, for some time. So it wasn't until I was in college that I knew that modern witchcraft practitioners, Wiccans, etc., existed. So I didn't have a name for it, even though I was interested in different alternative spiritualities, tarot cards, astrology, and stuff like that. And spirituality and religion in general fascinated me growing up. So I was sort of going in that direction, but I didn't have a name for it. Wasn't able to say, well, when I was in high school or middle school or whatever, when I was a teenager, I was interested in witchcraft, because I didn't have that name for it. I didn't have a name for what my interests were. I was still exploring. So although religion and spirituality was always something that was interesting to me, even as a child. So this sort of, that was there, but it wasn't named. Whereas with film, I always loved old movies. And I was in theater since I was tiny, doing dance and theater. So I was always involved in dance and theater my whole life, and I loved it. So that was always there. And I also love to watch old movies. My grandmother, she was in Los Angeles, and she used to she introduced me to a lot of the golden era starlets and the old movies. I have fond memories of watching old black and white sci-fi movies with my dad on weekends, because he was really interested in that. I loved Disney. I loved, all of Betty Grable and Lauren Bacall and Cary Grant and Humphrey Bogart. I loved all of that. It was like, so the glamour and the glitz and the magic, without a K, of Hollywood was really very fascinating to me from an early age. And I had a name for it. So I think both sort of, I was interested in both in tandem, but I didn't have a name for witchcraft until I was older.
Oh, I understand. And thank you for so elaborate answer. It's beautiful listening to you. It's, I really enjoy this talk a lot. I have a final question. You are doing this book that comes out in October 8th, that is Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. And the book is a new version of your past book, which was like the topic, the moment, or the click that you was doing your work, and one day you say, okay, this happened, so I need to put more material in the book and do a new edition and add something. What was the motive in there? What motivates you to work again in the book and trying to make it better, more complete? And this, which was the click for you?
I
Don't worry.
You can cut that out, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that there was more going on, and I had the opportunity to have it republished, and I seized it, because there was still, the story wasn't fully told yet, and it may still not be. And I write that at the end of my book. It's the witch's story is never fully told. It continues and continues. So I had that opportunity, so I decided to go ahead and redo it. And Llewellyn was very interested in that, and so they took it upon themselves. And there's a lot, the original book let me say this again, the new book is, the basis of it is the other book, so a lot of the material is the same. However, I expanded it, so each chapter is expanded. Each chapter is broken up. I walk through the decades a little slower, with a little more detail in various areas that were not in the original book. And of course, it's updated at the end. So the original book stopped in 2016. The new book ends in 2020. So there's a little more depth. there's a little more exploration into various topics throughout the way, and of course a little bit more in each film. So like I'd like to say is the new book sort of slows down the original book. It slows it down and gives you just a little more time with each decade, with different characters, exploring different topics as well. So it's not just a walk through film saying, this is a witch film, this is a witch film, this is a witch film. I talk about socio-political issues that influence the witch and her creation. I talk about there's feminism, there's talks about othering and racism, there's talks about male witches, which don't get a lot of discussion, and how they related and why and what are they, how are
we
they
are rooting for you. We are rooting for you.
So, so there's a lot of, it's not just a filmography of witches. It actually, there's a lot of discussion. So in the second book, I was able to slow down and really dive into some of those topics a little more in detail.
Wow. Yes, I arrived in New York in 2015, and when I see myself in that moment, I mean, I try to remember myself and just how much I changed from that. And obviously, this that you're saying is like I'm trying to upload all the material basically in the last period that we have, because so many things happen, literally, sociological and in a political level. It's a lot of so much information out there, and I really like that you made that in the book. How do you? I don't know the word for this in English, so. How do you find the way to mix up or blend all of these projects with your personal life? Because it's a lot of work, because you are doing a book, you are an editor, you write for different online magazines and blogs. How do you find the time? I mean, because it's a lot.
I think I do. It's just the way I am.
Yes, you obviously do, but what? How? That's the question. Which is the secret?
Well, again, we go back to Gemini, and I am a triple Gemini, so that adds a little bit more of I've got to do everything. But I think that it's really I love having different projects. I'm not content doing the same thing every day, so I love that aspect of what I do, and doing my book project. The majority of my book, first of all, was done prior to recently, because the bulk of it was done with the original book. But it's a matter of balance, and it's also a matter of finding out when to stop too, because you can't do a lot of different things 24/7. You have to sleep, number one, and you have to have good sleep. You also have to have time where you just shut down, and I have activities that I do that really just turn all of it off and just give my brain the drug, so to speak, that it needs to chill, as my teenage son would say. So like music is one, and you just lose yourself in the music, and that could be any form of art, or could be gardening. Gardening is another great one. So you have to do those. So it's not that I'm doing these things 24/7. It's that I can balance. I know I have also a lot of lists and a lot of Post-its around my office to keep track, and a lot of charts. So I have that. And then also just balance, structure, knowing when to stop at 5 o'clock and say, I'm going to go watch a movie that has nothing to do with witches, that has nothing to do with anything. Or I'm going to go spend time with my children, or, my boyfriend, or whatever, myself, so I know when to shut down. These are all crucial to being able to balance. It's amazing. If you know how to stop and do nothing, you can actually do more, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I think that's how I've managed to do it. I also love what I do. I mean, frankly, that's another thing. If you get up and don't like what you do, you don't want to do it. You'll slow down to a point where you'll just be stuck. But I love what I do. I love working with my authors. I love editing books. I love all the people I meet. I love doing the wild hunt and interviewing all these interesting magical practitioners from around the world. I love the journalism I do in religion. So I love every piece of it. even at the worst times and the most stressful times. So that helps as well.
Wow. Wow. And wow. I have this, I don't make personal questions, but we listen that you say boyfriend, but I don't go to make any questions about it. I just go to try to put that in my mind. I will be, after this video, I will be thinking about it. Well, I don't go to ask. This is my signature question for everybody. How was 2020 for you?
Wow. That's all I'm going to say. No, 2020 was a mixed bag for me. I'm going to be honest. And I count my blessings that it wasn't worse, because I know there have been people that have lost so much in 2020. So for me, I haven't lost in the ways that some people have lost people, jobs, etc. I've been very fortunate. And again, I count my blessings. I thank the gods that I am where I am, that I have my house and my job and still thriving in a lot of ways. But it's also been, I think I've seen a lot of mental is the wrong word. I've seen a lot of struggle that people have had mentally, family members, trying to talk to children about, why we're locked in, and friends who have had same conversations, having children struggling with the schools being closed. So there's been a lot of struggle. There's been a lot of stress. So for 2020 for me has been a mixed bag. Like I said, I count my blessings. And I think everybody I know anyway, I can't speak for the world, but everybody I know needs to weigh in and count their blessings, because there's just, it's been a very tough year for almost everybody on this planet. So I count my blessings, try to help where I can, try to be positive and look towards a better future and a world without the chaos that we have and without this disease. And try to enjoy the simple things. We've been locked down in my house. I have a small piece of property, so we could actually get outside and do fun stuff. And like I said, enjoy my work and keep trying to be a positive light through it all.
Got it. Thank you, Heather. This has been really amazing. I really appreciate that you take the time for this, because I know that you are involved in a lot of stuff and you are doing a lot of work and you are doing so many things at the same time. So I really appreciate that you take the time to come here to talk. And thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for everybody interested. The links are below in the description. The links to find her website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything that I will find about her. I will stalk her a lot. I will find a lot of resources and media and put all of that in there, the direction of the boyfriend and everything else. And thank you, Heather. If you want to say something else, this space is yours.
No, I think that I had a great time talking to you. I love your program. You have great questions, really fun. I love keeping it light too. It makes it really nice. I hope that everyone listening buys the book, of course. And what I'd like to say about that is that when you do buy it, make sure you look at the end of each chapter. There's a list of movies at the end of each chapter. And so it's really nice that when you're reading it is to actually watch the movies as you read it. So that way it just is way more fun. It's way more effective in understanding the concepts, but it's also it's just way more fun. You're watching movies,
yes.
So, and each chapter does have a list. So you get to get a full spectrum of all the possible movies that you can watch. So that's a really fun tip that I like to tell people. Other than that, watch movies, stay positive,
and read books.
And read books.
We should do a commercial. Thank you, Heather, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching the video. Remember, support your local stores if you have the opportunity. Remember to support your publishers. Please remember to support your authors, because if you want more books, you need to support your authors. And when you find the books and you read the books, please take the time, 5 minutes, to make a review. Try to recommend your books with someone else. Try to recommend your books, your authors with someone else, because that's the way how our community grows. We are not just authors, it's also editors, creators, content creators, person in local stores, all of this person who is part of our community, people who do podcasts, all of these persons are part of the community, and each one of them need this support. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Heather, for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.